seconds and counting.
Hi, I'm Michelle Cox, and I am the group advisor for Homeschoolers on a Mission for Education. And so this is your new YouTube channel, Crazy for Homes, about homeschooling. So one of the couple of things that I wanted to go over first was learning styles and love languages. Because that it is the most important thing to learn first about your children before you start homeschooling. And so as we go through all of these little how to homeschool and the newest curriculums and all of those good things that are going to come out of this video, out of these videos, I want you to know that we're going to start off the very beginning and really try to learn about our children first before we start teaching them curriculum. So I hope you enjoy my videos. I hope you like the contents. And so let's get started. Part of that, and I hate the glare off my glasses. You have to forgive me. And I'm still kind of getting used to this. So I'm going to leave it exactly the way it is today. And as we learn how to do this, it's going to get better. And that's kind of how I look at it. So first things first, love languages and learning styles. Those are the two things that most people don't look at first when they start to teach their children. One, you have to learn what your children's learning style and love language is first. Both of those things go together. There is not one that's going to separate the other. They both go together. They both make a difference when you're learning to teach your children. So how do you figure that out? Well, there's several different books out there that'll teach you. One of the major books out there is Love Languages by, and I knew his name yesterday. Gary Chapman, sorry. Again, I'm still new to this, so I'm going to leave it as rough as it is so that I can kind of work it out. Please leave your comments and ask me questions. I promise we'll get better at this as we go along. So according to Gary Chapman of the 5 love languages, there are 5 expressions and experiences that love for our own feelings, that we feel, that give off a language that we kind of speak to people in the way that we act. So they have gift of givings, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and words of affirmation. Now, all 5 of those are in Gary Chapman's book, which you can get all over the place. We do have some here that you can actually get also at No Place Like Home on Facebook. And it talks about how each aspect of that love language, if you are learning how to talk to someone in that language, that they learn better because of their being loved in the right way. So one of the ways that we do this is, like, I use myself as a great example. My gifts are always going to be words of affirmation and acts of service. Those things are my love languages because I love to give words of affirmation and encourage people and show them in the right way to go because I enjoy those things myself. And acts of service, if my kids, friends, people around me come help me and do things for me and help me get things done, those kind of things is how I feel loved on. Which again turns around in how I love on other people. Now, you may have a child that you're just like, ugh, I cannot figure out their love language. Don't worry about it. They maybe have tons of them and you just haven't figured out the right one yet. It takes a little bit of time and it takes a lot of patience. I know everybody says don't pay for patience because God will give them to you. But understand this. Patience is not a bad thing to have when you're trying to homeschool because you have to take time. Plus, you do not homeschool 365 days a year. You homeschool as your time progresses and you get 180 days in, just like you would in public school, except you have 365 days to cover it in. A grade doesn't end just because you finished a book. You may still be working on a particular subject or particular module that you can't move forward. Well, that might be because their love language is quality time and you haven't put the time in with them. One of the other things, there's an acronym called VARK. Okay, so the learning styles, the acronym for the learning styles is called VARK. Visual, oral, reading and writing, and kinesthetics. This comes from Fleming and Mills, 1992, article, or actually their essay from a New Zealand university that they were writing that suggests that 4 modules explain that how people use their senses in order to learn. So now we use love languages. Now we're talking about their senses. Now, we have 5 senses. And actually we only use 4 of them to actually learn, which is an interesting thing, because if you think about it, we sometimes use our smell to help us learn things. So I'm not quite sure why that part didn't get put in there. But so you're saying that we're a visual learner, which means that we have to see how something works. You have to see it put together. You have to see it worked out. You have to see how things are put in detail. You can't just pick up the book and read through it and go, oh, I know how to do this. You need it to be shown to you step by step. That is a visual learner. An oral learner has to hear it. They have to hear it maybe once, twice. They can hear it in their sleep. They can be doing a billion things, but as long as they hear it, they know exactly what to do next because they're listening to the instructions with the other part of their brain. Reading and writing. Now, the reading and writing person, they have to see it wrote down on paper. Now, I have to see things wrote down on paper. So I'll show you. See my notes? I have notebook pad of all my notes and how I keep up with what I'm talking about and what I'm not talking about. And that's what a reading and writing one. They need to keep notes. They need to read what it says, and they can read book after book after book. Now, I can't read book after book. I'm not going to lie. I honestly, I read what I need to know. I'm not a fun reader. There are people that love to just read for fun. I am not one of those type of people. And there's a lot of people who are not. Also, there's kinesthetic. Those people that's got to touch. They're constantly touching. Usually, if you have a kinesthetic learner, you can teach them to type, and they can pull out essay papers like that because typing is a type of touching. And so because you're touching, they learn quicker. So when they're reading off something to them or you're dictating sentences and they are typing, they're going to get that information in their head a lot faster. So they refer to that, there's many different senses that you're using, and all of these senses we already know. Well, if you combine those senses with your love languages, okay, a good one is if you have a physical touch as a love language, then you're more likely going to be kinesthetic. You need to have touch to learn things. Usually if you have gift of giving or acts of service, those 2 things, they're all going to be a visual, or they're also going to be a reading and writing type of thing. So once you start to learn those differences in between what your acts of service is and what your love languages is and what your learning styles is, and you start putting those things together, you start looking at your children in a different way. You start looking at them as an individual and not just as your children. One other quick thing before I go ahead and move on with this video and show you something different. There are many things that you can do with your kids. One of them is constantly play with your kids. You have to have a relationship with your children. If you don't have a relationship with your children, it's like anything else with relationships. You need that relationship in order for you to teach them. And it's not just about school books. It's not. It's about building and growing husbands and wives for the future. People who are going to be out there, who are going to make a world a better place. And then if they don't, you know what? You've done the best you can. God says to always bring them up in the way that they should go, and they will not stray from it. And I wholeheartedly believe that God has a plan and a purpose for everybody. So before I let you go, to give you 2 words of encouragement. 1, you can homeschool. It is not impossible to do. And 2, God gave you those children for you to take care of and for you to make special. You are going to know them better than anybody else in the world, and only you are the one who's going to be able to make them the way God intends for them to be. You can give them to other people for learning styles, but you want to give your children what you are looking for, what you would like to help them grow into, and what God's instructed you to do. And so with all of that, I tell you happy homeschooling and see you next time. Thanks for watching.